Hello, and welcome to episode 89 of Public Interest Podcast with your host, Jordan Cooper, where we interview politicians, activists, advocates, and others who seek to improve the state of the world. We're here today with Adrienne Andrews, Executive Director of Notre Dame Mission Volunteers. Adrienne, how are you doing today?
Very well, Jordan. How are you?
Excellent. Glad to have you on the show. The first thing I'd like to ask you is what are you currently doing or what have you ever done to advance the public interest and why?
Public interest. My work has mainly been in education. Our program is an international volunteer program where we get to offer people opportunities to serve in their communities or in another community around the country, and then we have international folks serving in Haiti. So my interest has always been bringing out the best in people so that they can bring out the best in other people, and then building those bridges in communities so that we can have better dialogue, better understanding of our own human nature and then the nature of our brothers and sisters.
Interesting. So you're trying to create dialogue in communities. You mentioned Haiti. How did you get, and you're currently in Baltimore, Maryland, how did you get involved with Haiti?
So our program was founded 25 years ago by the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur. So the sisters, one of their sayings is, you have to grow your hearts as wide as the world. And so that is reflected in our work all the time. We began ministry along with the Sisters of Notre Dame in Haiti back in 2009, right after the earthquake. There's a Sister of Notre Dame who's Haitian and wanted to move back to serve her hometown in Lacaille, Haiti. So she needed a few other people to go with her and assist her in that work. And so we've been sending volunteers there for the past 3 or 4 years. So we have developed a little bit of a program there where we're having local Haitians serve their own community, just like in this country, like people can serve in their own community, and then we Americans will go serve alongside them, where the Americans can learn Creole from the Haitians, and the Haitians can learn English from us, and then we can have a better understanding culturally of what Americans see in Haiti and what Haitians see about their own community. So we do education there. We were working with kids who don't have an opportunity to go to school, teaching them how to read and math. And also there's women where we have a co-op. And then we're also going to be building a bakery so we can help folks have jobs. So
why is it important to build that cross-cultural understanding and help Haitians understand Americans and vice versa, as you just mentioned?
I mean, I think it's the same level of importance as it is here in Baltimore. You know, I want to understand folks next door to me or across the street from me because we all see the world a little bit differently. So if I can understand how someone sees the world, maybe I'll get to see it a little bit differently, and maybe I'll get to respect that person a little bit differently. So it's building places for education, but also in doing that, you have dialogue that is only going to help us understand the world a little bit better.
And understanding the world a little bit better through dialogue enhances respect, which creates stronger communities?
That's a good formula. I like that one. I think it just, again, I mean, what the sisters say is that, you know, kind of in their religious practice, they would see that every person has the divine within them. It's also, John Lewis says that every person has the spark of the divine within them. So if you can help people see their spark of divine, and then they just light up, and they're going to be capable of much more than they realize. And if I get to see that, then I get to see my own goodness.
So let's talk about your own goodness and the spark of the divine within you. How is it that being executive director of Notre Dame Mission Volunteers helps bring out that spark? How does this position enable you to allow that spark to light?
I think working together with people can always do that. You know, it's tricky to. It is hard to work with people. You just think that, you know, how do I work with someone who doesn't think anything like me, or how do I, but what's our common piece? You know, what's that basic level of humanity where we can see eye to eye on? And so, for me, I value every person and what they bring to the table. I think every person has something to offer me. They have something to offer their own community. They have something to offer the world. And my goal every day is to see that in every person I am in contact with, which is there's just joy in that. Like when you can see what lights a person up, it just lights you up.
And so let's get a little bit more concrete in the work that you actually do. What is it that the Notre Dame mission volunteers, what kind of work do you guys actually do? And then we can get into how that work helps people actualize their potential.
So we, in this country for the past 22 years, we've gotten an AmeriCorps grant. So we partner with the
What is AmeriCorps?
We partner with the federal government has a program called AmeriCorps. It was begun by the first George Bush, signed in by the Bill Clinton, and then every president along the way has really taken ownership of it and helped develop it and grow it in its 20-some year history. So it's been something where everyone, again, this conversation, it's not political. As an American, value, we seek to create a better environment for our brothers and sisters. So with our work, we apply to the federal government. We get an AmeriCorps grant that allows us to have 495 AmeriCorps members all over the country. And
so Notre Dame Mission Volunteers is based in Baltimore, but has 495 volunteers around the United States. You're a national organization.
We are.
And somewhat international, having a bakery in Haiti.
Right, and that's with the Sisters of Notre Dame. So Notre Dame Mission Volunteers, the parent organization, has an international program and a domestic program that's funded by AmeriCorps. And in our domestic work, our goal is to put folks into classroom settings, and generally in our public schools and even some of our charter schools and private schools, there are, you have 30 plus kids in a classroom with one teacher, various learning levels. So a lot of our work revolves around getting more people in contact to support those kids. So we pull children out and we do one-on-one and small group instruction. And so I did my year of service in Watsonville, California, where I worked in a migrant farm worker town and very much overcrowded classroom. So there were 38 students in this English class that I got to teach or be a part of teaching. The lead teacher, there were about 5 different levels of English learners in that classroom as well. So imagine 38 kids.
Yeah.
Some of them have been in this country a few months, some of them a few years.
That's a lot. And what's the average classroom size is in the mid-20s?
It depends where you go. I think in Baltimore a couple of years ago it was in the mid-30s.
Okay.
And so what I would do is I would pull out the kids who were right on that edge of not making it. They were just pulling D's maybe, or getting in there, and so I would pull them out and work with them one-on-one, reading, writing, preparing them for tests, doing projects together. And, in that year, I served about a year and I helped 11 kids graduate like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
how'd that make you feel?
I just like the personalities of all the kids. There are, these high school kids whose parents may not have gone to school past middle school or even elementary school in Mexico because it wasn't available to them. So helping them realize that they're capable of something that their parents didn't even have the option of.
So you saw something in them that they didn't even see in themselves.
And they saw something in me. It has to go both ways. There has to be a level of trust. And because I was just a crazy girl from Ohio coming out there just to, do my best.
How did they react to you?
Oh, it was great. High school kids are wonderful because they have personalities that are starting to emerge, and they like to tease me a lot. And so I would just go with that. Hey, teacher, do you know this word in Spanish? And of course I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that word.
Were they curious as to why some girl from Ohio would come out there and care about them and try to help them pass their tests?
I never entered into it that way. I would try to build relationship with them. Some of them would ask me where I'm from, and they'd be like, wow, what's it like there? That was their most common question. What's it like in Ohio? Because they read about it in books.
How did you answer that question?
I just said, what do you think it's like? There are cows and cornfields, and they're like, that's what their guess would be like, yeah, cows and cornfields, that's pretty good. So yeah, you just kind of bring that out in them. Okay, well, what is your vision of it? And then you try to say, well, at some point you might be able to go there. Really? You think I could go there? Yeah. What's holding you back? Why? I don't have any money yet. Well, where do you want to work? What do you want to do? So you just use that to dig deeper and deeper into a relationship.
How did you learn these skills that you use to help bring these kids along? How did you learn to ask questions? Were you taught, or is it something that came naturally to you?
Well, so part of our program is we have a team of AmeriCorps members in every city. So in Watsonville that year, it was our first year being in Watsonville, California.
In every city in which you have a program.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. And so in Watsonville, there were 7 of us, and then we had a site director who we would meet with every other week. And she was from that area, so she knew the community better than us.
Okay.
And so we would do like classroom management stuff. We would do cultural competency training.
So you'd spend some time in the schools, but then you'd spend some time with this woman who pre-existed you, who was in Watsonville before you arrived, and she spends some time each week helping you.
Well, help all of us.
Helping everyone.
Our team. Yeah, she's a sister of Notre Dame who had a lot of experience too. So we get to do these trainings together and then share within our group of volunteers, what they saw in their school and how they worked with it and what we saw in our school. So it was just an exchange of ideas and energy that would fuel you to go back into that classroom. And
was this like a full-time job? Were you in school the entire day, 5 days a week?
So as an AmeriCorps member, you do as much as you can in a way. You were set off to be in this classroom, but sometimes I would like to stay for after-school programming and just be a part. To me, it was all about immersing myself in the community as much as possible and listening and learning and being supportive to the kids and what they were already doing.
So it sounds like a lot of your organization is very education-driven. Is that correct? It's mostly, but I also heard you had a bakery.
Yeah. So our domestic program is it's education, and the sisters, that's been their part of their charism since 1804 when they were founded.
What is a charism?
The charism, that's a very Catholic term. So it's really the spirit of the Sisters of Notre Dame, and kind of their major tenet. One of their major tenets is educating men and women and children in the most abandoned places is kind of a part of their.
And do the people that you're helping have to be Catholic?
No.
And then is there any Catholic component is there any proselytizing of Catholicism?
No.
So why is it that this Catholic-driven mission is able to reach out to all of these people who are not Catholic and without even trying to promote Catholicism? How does Catholicism inform what you're trying to do?
I mean, I wasn't Catholic per se when I may have been raised Catholic. We would say, a lot of our folks have Catholic roots or understand the Catholic social teachings.
Yeah.
But it's just part of the spirit of the work. I mean, you need to be anchored in something deep in order to stay active in this kind of work. You need some kind of value set. You need a faith that is much bigger than you, that will keep you grounded, and so or keep you asking good questions. So with the Sisters of Notre Dame, it's been their Catholic faith, and that a lot of the sisters, the reason they got into this work was because of their faith, but also because of the injustices they saw. So
their faith is almost a source of strength that enables them to carry out this philanthropic mission.
I think it's so intertwined with their basic being, and with mine as well. I'd say, Catholicism, there's just such a beauty to our community that we get to build around communion, and then just these basic tenets of that God is present in every person. That's it, and that's as simple as it is. And I don't.
So you're serving God by serving them,
or I'm seeing God by seeing others. That's it. You see Jesus in the other person. That's it.
Do you ever have difficulty seeing Jesus in another person?
Yeah. that one sister who says that's my sin speaking. Of course, yeah. That's our own social structures and barriers that we develop and construct to make ourselves feel safe, right? So you stop yourself from feeling vulnerable, when that's exactly where you will see God, making yourself vulnerable to that. But when you make yourself vulnerable, you see the difficult things. You see the things that are going to make you uncomfortable. But then you have the possibility of seeing the goodness, too. So you have to be willing to open your heart up to all of those difficult things, because that is actually where God is, in the difficult things, too.
So when you find somebody who you're having difficulty empathizing with, and you're trying to help them, how do you overcome that?
Boy, you realize you're human. First of all, it's like, all right, this is gonna be it. This is life. It takes, like anybody seeing someone else that you have a hard time seeing their basic humanity, you try to break it down to realize at their basic level is goodness. One of my heroes is John Lewis. And
who, for our listeners, could you say who that is?
John Lewis is, he was very active in the civil rights movement, right-hand man to Martin Luther King Jr., and he's now, and has been for decades, a congressman from Atlanta, and civil rights leader. And his whole, I've listened to several interviews and heard him speak and read a lot of his writing, and, part of their training in the civil rights movement was when someone, and I just can't imagine this, but this is what I challenge myself to in a way, is like when someone was attacking them, beating them or spitting on them or just angry at them, when someone was attacking them or angry at them, they would have to picture that person as a baby. And a baby, because a baby represents hope and goodness and possibility, and at every point in our life, let her go. At any point in our lives,
you could get interrupted by a dog barking, by different kinds of things.
She just likes to sing a little bit. She wanted to be included.
You could get interrupted by the fire hoses and the police dogs in the civil rights movement.
You can.
And then you just have to basically kind of distill that into basic love and acknowledge their humanity.
Or just keep going. Just keep moving.
Move beyond the bark.
You just keep moving. That John Lewis, he's in his late 70s, still a congressman, and he still preaches love. He still has the ability to see every person for their basic goodness. And because a lot of what our society has done is put a lot of barriers to that. We put a lot of constructs and a lot of social dynamics that dehumanize people.
So now you're no longer in the classroom directly interacting with these students. Right. You're the executive director of a national organization. How is that different for you? How do you keep going every day? What are you trying to accomplish?
Right. Well, part of my service, was figuring out if I did want to go into education or teaching, and so I learned I was not going to be a teacher. I could 7 kids might be it. I could do that in small groups.
But 38.
But oh my God, it takes. And this is it. I grew to respect teachers so much from this experience, from my own experience, but also from witnessing this one woman I got to work with, just beautiful and dynamic person she was. And so what I decided was that I wanted to help other people figure out if they want to be teachers. I want to help other people have the experience that I did that changed how I saw high school kids, because people want to, so I figured out that I wanted to learn how to run a program like ours that is community-based but has a national scope. So how do you develop community on a local level, but then how do you bring folks together and develop community nationwide? And so we were able to do a little bit of that. And to me, it's also when you get to learn something, you're challenged to share that. You're responsible for it. You're responsible for doing something good with it. And so having learned the transformative experience, the transformative possibilities of service within communities, I wanted to open those opportunities up to other people.
And so that's what you've been able to do.
So I begged my former boss, for a job, and she turned me down at first. I love telling that story, especially in front of her. She gets a little nervous, but but it was the right decision. I remember we had a 2-hour interview, and I thought I nailed it. And at the end of it, she said it's not going to be a good fit, and so I moved home for like 6 months.
She was right.
She was totally right.
But now it is a perfect fit, so much so that they gave you her job.
Yeah, well, they didn't give it to me. I worked for that. Yeah. So I was there for 11 years, as admin assistant, as
How is
CFO.
it that it wasn't a good fit, and now it is a good fit? Did the organization change, or did you?
Well, it was a little different position that I entered into, which helped. The position I entered into had a lot more possibility to learn different things, which is what I needed to do. I needed an opportunity to learn kind of every aspect of the organization. And so I like to learn. So as I kept going within the organization, I just kept finding new things to learn. And so then when this position opened up, and I was asked to apply for it, it was a natural fit. Because I had learned everything, program, personnel, partnership, and then finances.
And some of our listeners listening to this episode have a desire to do public service, to advance the public interest, but sometimes they're not sure where the right fit might be for them. How is it that you figured out that this was the right fit, especially after having been told that it wasn't the right fit? Right. And then now actually you agree at the time that it wasn't, but you were somehow able to find a different tact. How did you do that?
That's a very good question, and I ask myself that often. For one thing, I mean, with our organization, I believed in the very basic concepts, the very basic, the fundamental kind of values that we have. So I got that. And then I wanted to figure out a way to live those out in another way. And I really believe that the depth of the life of the Sisters of Notre Dame spoke to me. Mm-hmm. These women have given their lives to the community, essentially. Their entire lives over to the community. And that is their purpose in this world. So to me, you can't stop asking the question. If it is in you to be of service, or if it's in you to learn something, you have to keep looking for it, because you might go to one organization and you have a terrible experience and it doesn't work. You can't stop there. You have to keep looking for what's going to be the right fit, because there are so many options. And sometimes you might not need an organization. Sometimes you might just need to walk around your neighborhood and talk to your neighbors, or sometimes you might just need to go and sit downtown and just, meet people. There's a way to do that, and that might speak to you a little bit deeper. So I think it's just, you can't stop asking the question of where my gifts kind of meet the needs of others, or where, honestly, like, the gifts of others might meet my needs.
So as we approach the end of this podcast, I'd like to ask you a final question, which is to reflect upon your years in service. You've done 11 years of service for Notre Dame Mission Volunteers. You've risen from first being rejected to being a teacher in the community, being different leadership levels within the organization, to now leading the organization. Why is it that you do it? You've mentioned that it's somewhat been rewarding, but can you really talk a little bit, not only about why you find it so important to serve others, but what is it? What is your legacy? What do you hope to leave behind? How do you wish to be remembered? What is it that all your work and effort will amount to?
Well, I'm only 34, so I hope I don't go anywhere soon. But I appreciate the question in a way, because I wouldn't ask myself that question in that way. I would just say, what am I doing today that is helpful towards the larger kind of institutional picture? What am I doing right now in this moment, or in my day today, that's going to positively impact somebody else? So how do we help move institutions in a way that is responsive to the community, and not just upholding the institution? Institutions, I think, are very, very important. But how are we helping institutions be relevant instead of just maintaining themselves? So my question is, what is that dialogue between our leadership and then folks in the community, which is why we have staff in communities all over the country, because they hear what's going on the ground level. So for me, I don't know if I'm ready to answer a legacy question, because I'm very new in this position.
Well, not what your legacy is, but what you hope for it to be.
Sure. So, I mean, it's very simple to me. My dad would say, when you stay at somebody's house or you borrow something from them, give it back to them better than how you received it. And so that's how I feel about my life in a way. How am I leaving this organization better than I received it? How am I leaving this world a little bit better than I received it? And to me, it's just those everyday interactions with people around us and trying to find the goodness in them. And so I want to spread opportunities for people to serve. I want to make available folks who want to serve in their own communities and really understand on the basic level what those people next door that they never talked to are going through.
So that has been Adrienne Andrews, Executive Director of Notre Dame Mission Volunteers, who speaks about her service as a means of glorifying the divine that she sees within each and every one of us. Adrienne is driven to create an organization that perpetuates opportunities to help individuals in need actualize their potential. For Adrienne, she's able to mix her personal faith with divine action every single day as she works to ensure that the world is ultimately somewhat better because she has tread upon it. So for Adrienne, that is what makes all the difference. It's about making a difference in individuals' lives and on a national level, facilitating opportunities for others to make a difference on individuals' lives. So thank you so much for joining us today, Adrienne.
Thank you, Jordan.
And this has been episode 89 of Public Interest Podcast with your host, Jordan Cooper, where we interview politicians, activists, advocates, and others who seek to improve the state of the world. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.